Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today our premise is simple. Robots are jerks. Now, this is according to a whole bunch of demoralized humans, and I have some notes here because this is beyond fascinating. These demoralized humans actually played against machines for money in a recent study by Cornell University, basically trying to understand what can happen to a worker's drive if they're in an increasingly automated workplace. As we know, as we continue to automate, a lot of not necessarily jobs are being lost to robots, but a lot of tasks that humans do are being essentially put onto robots. And as a result of it, sometimes we end up having to compete with the automation that has been put in place for us. Now, this study was the first one ever to bring experts in both behavioral economics and robotics together to see basically how a machine's performance influences the reactions of humans competing against them, alongside a robot, basically. Now, when humans unsuccessfully vied against the robot arm for cash prizes, this is part of the test, the participants ended up viewing themselves as less competent, didn't try as hard, and tended to dislike the automated appendage, basically, that bested them. Now, this is according to the researchers here, and I have notes, obviously. Now, the task that they actually had to do was pretty easy. They had to count how often the letter G appeared in a list of characters, and then putting the corresponding number of blocks into a bin. So in other words, if there are 3 Gs, put 3 blocks into a bin. Awards were given through a lottery system tied to the humans and robots score. So in other words, the better a player did, whether it was a robot or a human, the better odds they had at winning. In other words, the lottery was stacked for those that were more efficient. Now, some of the quotes coming from people I think were actually rather fascinating here. Here's the first one, and I quote, I felt very stressed competing with the robot. In some rounds, I kept seeing the robot's score increasing out of the corner of my eye, which was extremely nerve-wracking. Another one said, some rounds the robot would go slower, and that's when I started going faster. In other words, more mistakes would possibly creep in, or that person was motivated to keep ahead of the robot. And also, it was obvious when the robot was going easy on me. And so I think that's actually very interesting because we know that as we increase the automation of this, we are going to actually be losing, some jobs, but we're also going to be losing a lot of tasks. Or we might do one thing and the robot complements or supplements us by doing another task for us. And if, let's say, we can't keep up with the robot, or if the robot, is in front of us, let's say in whatever assembly line that is, then can we keep up with what the robot is doing, and what does that do for morale? Because robots don't sleep. They don't stop unless we want them to stop. And the only thing I could really think of was that old I Love Lucy episode where her and Ethel are in the chocolate factory and all the chocolate is rolling down and they're trying to keep up and they can't. And their supervisor says, oh, you're doing a great job, because she doesn't realize they've been eating the chocolate or stuffing it in their clothes. And so they just speed up the conveyor belt. And I think that's kind of the situation we're getting into, just less hysterical. Are we now moving into an era where, we have, let's say, an incoming, we have an incoming raising generation that we have seen just absolutely spike in depression. Some of us correlate that with social media, but now they're going to be sitting in the workplace, basically doing a job with a robot that may further demoralize them in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's actually a very interesting question, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But as we look to the future, I think it's kind of an important answer to make sure that we are not all turning into robot murderers here simply because they are very effective at their job. So that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.